Did you know that something as simple as reheating your leftovers could potentially be making you sick? I know. I know. We all love a good leftover. It's convenient. It saves money. And sometimes, a dish even tastes better the next day. Doesn't it? For decades, we've packed up the rest of dinner, popped it in the fridge, and pulled it out for lunch or another evening meal. It feels like second nature, a part of our routine. But what if I told you that this common practice, while usually safe, carries a hidden danger for certain foods as we get a little older? Our bodies can become more sensitive, our immune systems perhaps not quite as robust as they once were. This means that risks we might have shrugged off in our younger years can pose a more serious threat now. Food poisoning isn't just an upset stomach. It can be severe, leading to dehydration, hospital stays, and, in rare cases, even more serious complications. It's a painful reality that something we rely on for ease could potentially cause us real harm if we're not careful. There's a secret to handling leftovers safely, especially when it comes to specific types of food. In this video, we're going to uncover 5 common foods that you absolutely need to think twice about before reheating. You might be surprised to learn which ones are on this list and why. Understanding these risks and knowing what to do instead can make a world of difference in protecting your health and well-being. Stick around and watch to the very end, because I'll share some simple tips and something that will surprise you about how to enjoy your food safely without taking unnecessary risks. Let's dive right in and start with the first food on our list, one that often finds its way into the refrigerator after a meal: rice. Now, I know what you're thinking. Reheating rice is completely normal, and yes, it is common, but it comes with a specific and often overlooked risk. Cooked rice can contain spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. These spores are incredibly resilient. They can survive even when rice is cooked. If cooked rice is left standing at room temperature for too long, these spores can multiply and produce toxins. It's these toxins, not the bacteria itself, that cause the illness. Symptoms often include vomiting and diarrhea, and they can come on quite quickly after eating the contaminated rice. The problem is that reheating the rice, even thoroughly, doesn't necessarily destroy these toxins. They are heat resistant. So, while you might kill the bacteria by heating it up again, the harmful substances they produced are still there, ready to cause you trouble. Think about that dinner party where you had plenty of rice left over. Or perhaps you cooked a big batch earlier in the week for convenience. How long did that rice sit out on the counter before you decided to put it away? Was it more than an hour or two? That's often all it takes for those dormant spores to wake up and start creating toxins, especially in warm kitchen conditions. Maybe you served dinner, got distracted chatting, and the rice sat there cooling down gradually for hours before you remembered to cover it and pop it in the fridge. Or perhaps you portioned it out into containers while it was still quite warm, and it took a long time to cool down properly in the fridge. These scenarios, simple as they seem, create the perfect breeding ground for Bacillus cereus to thrive and produce its harmful toxins, even if you put the rice in the fridge promptly. If it was left out for a significant time before cooling, the toxins might already be present. The key isn't just refrigeration. It's how quickly the rice is cooled after cooking. To minimize the risk, cooked rice should be cooled down as quickly as possible, ideally within 1 hour, and definitely no longer than 2 hours, and then refrigerated immediately. When you do reheat it, make sure it's heated through thoroughly, reaching a steaming hot temperature. But honestly, the safest approach for many, especially considering the potential severity of food poisoning as we age, is to be very cautious with leftover rice. If you're unsure how long it was left out, or if it wasn't cooled rapidly, it might be safer to discard it. It feels wasteful. I know. But your health is far more important than a portion of rice. Another food group that needs careful handling when it comes to reheating is poultry, like chicken or turkey. We often roast a whole chicken or turkey, leaving plenty of meat for leftovers. Cooked chicken is a high-protein food, and proteins can sometimes break down differently upon reheating. But the primary concern here is bacterial growth, just like rice. If cooked chicken is left at room temperature for too long, harmful bacteria, such as Salmonella or Campylobacter, can multiply rapidly, while thorough reheating will kill these bacteria. There's a potential issue with the quality, and sometimes even the structure of the protein itself after multiple heating cycles. More importantly, if the chicken wasn't cooled down and refrigerated promptly after cooking, or if it's reheated multiple times, the risk of bacterial growth and toxin production increases. Have you ever noticed that reheated chicken can sometimes be a bit dry or have a slightly different texture? That's partly due to changes in the protein structure. While this change in texture isn't harmful in itself, it's a reminder that the food is undergoing changes. The real danger lies in improper storage and reheating. Imagine you had roast chicken for Sunday dinner. You carved it, served it, and the rest sat on the table while you had dessert and coffee. That sitting time is where the problems can start. To safely store and reheat cooked chicken, make sure you cool it down quickly after the meal. Don't leave it sitting out. Shred or slice the meat and store it in shallow containers in the refrigerator to help it cool faster. When you're ready to reheat it, ensure it's heated all the way through until it's piping hot. Reheating it just slightly warm isn't enough to kill potential bacteria. And try to avoid reheating the same portion of chicken multiple times. Cook what you plan to eat in one sitting. If you have a large batch of leftover chicken, it's better to portion it out before refrigerating and only take out and reheat the amount you plan to consume at that specific meal. Eating it cold in sandwiches or salads, provided it was cooled and stored properly in the first place, is often a safer option as you avoid the reheating step altogether. So, next time you've got leftover roast chicken or turkey, think about how long it's been out and how you're planning to reheat it. A little caution here can prevent a lot of discomfort later on. Moving on from chicken and rice, let's talk about another food. Many of us grew up reheating potatoes. Cooked potatoes, especially if they're cooked in a dish like a potato salad or mashed potatoes with added ingredients, can also pose a risk if not handled correctly. Potatoes are root vegetables, and like rice, they can contain spores of Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria that cause botulism. Now, botulism is a serious, potentially life-threatening form of food poisoning, much rarer than Bacillus cereus or Salmonella, but significantly more dangerous. These spores thrive in environments with little oxygen, and they can produce toxins under the right conditions. When you cook potatoes and then wrap them tightly in foil or store them in airtight containers without cooling them rapidly first, you create the perfect low-oxygen environment for these spores to grow and produce their potent toxins. This is particularly a risk with baked potatoes that are wrapped in foil and then left to cool at room temperature. The foil traps moisture and creates that anaerobic oxygen-free environment. Reheating the potatoes, even thoroughly, may not destroy the botulism toxin, just like with the rice. The toxin is heat-resistant, so if the toxin is present, reheating won't make it safe. Consider that delicious leftover baked potato you saved from dinner. If it sat on the counter wrapped in foil for hours before you put it in the fridge, there's a potential risk. Or maybe you made a big batch of mashed potatoes for a family gathering and left them sitting on the stove or counter for a while before storing them. Even potato dishes that seem safe can become problematic if the base ingredient, the potato, wasn't cooled properly after its initial cooking. The key here is rapid cooling and proper storage. If you've baked potatoes, remove them from the foil immediately after they're done and let them cool in the open air or refrigerate them right away. For mashed or boiled potatoes, cool them quickly before storing them in the refrigerator in a container that isn't completely airtight. Or at least ensure they are fully cooled before sealing. Again, rapid cooling is essential to minimize the time the spores have to activate and produce toxins. While the risk of botulism from potatoes is relatively low compared to other forms of food poisoning, the severity of the illness makes it something we should absolutely be aware of. especially as we prioritize our health in our senior years. Being mindful of how you handle cooked potatoes after they've been heated the first time is a simple but crucial step. If you're reheating potatoes, make sure they reach a hot temperature throughout. But the bigger concern is the initial handling and storage after cooking. If there's any doubt about how long they were left out before cooling, or if they were cooled slowly in an airtight environment, it's wise to err on the side of caution. It might feel overly cautious, but when you understand the potential dangers, that caution becomes a smart choice for your well-being. Next on our list is another food that might surprise you: spinach and other leafy greens. Think about that leftover cooked spinach side dish or a soup that contains spinach. These vegetables, when grown, can absorb nitrates from the soil. Nitrates themselves aren't necessarily harmful, but bacteria present in the vegetables and in our digestive system can convert nitrates into nitrites, and then into something called nitrosamines. This conversion happens more readily when the vegetables are heated, cooled, and then reheated. While the research on the health impacts of consuming reheated nitrates is still evolving, some studies suggest that nitrosamines might have potential links to certain health concerns for people over 60 who may have pre-existing health conditions or be more sensitive to dietary compounds. Minimizing exposure to potential risks is a sensible approach. The primary concern with reheating spinach and similar leafy greens like kale or collard greens multiple times isn't typically acute food poisoning like bacteria, but rather the potential chemical changes related to nitrates. Imagine you cooked a large pot of soup with spinach or made a substantial portion of creamed spinach. You eat some, refrigerate the rest, and plan to reheat it over the next few days. Each time you reheat it, you're potentially increasing the conversion of those nitrates into nitrites and nitrosamines. While a single reheating is generally considered less risky if the food was stored properly, repeated reheating or prolonged warming can be more problematic. The advice often given is to eat cooked spinach and other high-nitrate greens immediately after cooking. If you have leftovers, cool them down quickly and store them in the refrigerator. When you reheat them, heat just the portion you plan to eat and ensure it's heated thoroughly. Try to avoid reheating spinach multiple times. If you have a large amount, it might be better to portion it out before refrigerating and only reheat specific portions once. Or, if the dish allows, perhaps the leafy greens can be added fresh towards the end of the cooking process when you're preparing the meal, rather than cooking them in a large batch and then reheating. It's a subtle point, but it's about reducing repeated heating cycles on the same nitrates. So, while you might not get immediate food poisoning from reheating spinach, being aware of the potential for these chemical changes, especially with repeated reheating, is another layer of food safety we can easily incorporate into our routines as we look after ourselves. It's about being mindful of everything we put into our bodies and how we prepare it. Finally, let's talk about a beloved comfort food that can also become problematic upon reheating: seafood. This includes fish, shrimp, crab, and other types of seafood. Cooked seafood is highly perishable and, like poultry, is prone to bacterial growth if not stored correctly. However, reheating seafood comes with its own set of potential issues beyond just bacterial risk. Although that's certainly a concern if it wasn't handled well initially, the primary concern with reheating seafood is often related to the risk of histamine production in certain types of fish, like tuna, mackerel, and mahi-mahi, which are known as scombrotoxin-producing fish. If these fish are not kept properly chilled from the moment they are caught until they are cooked and consumed, bacteria can produce histamine. This toxin is not destroyed by cooking or reheating. Eating fish containing high levels of histamine can cause scombroid poisoning, which mimics an allergic reaction with symptoms like flushing, headache, dizziness, itching, and digestive issues. While not all seafood is prone to this specific risk, all cooked seafood is a high-risk food for general bacterial growth if left at improper temperatures. Think about that delicious fish dinner you had last night. Did the leftovers sit on the counter while you cleared the table and washed dishes? Was it put into the fridge immediately after you finished eating? The speed of cooling is crucial for seafood. It should be cooled down and refrigerated within 2 hours of cooking, and ideally, much faster. When reheating seafood, the quality and safety can also be affected by the process itself. Reheating can sometimes make the texture rubbery and the flavor less appealing. More importantly, if there was any bacterial growth or histamine production before refrigeration, reheating won't necessarily make it safe. The safest way to enjoy seafood is to eat it fresh after it's cooked. If you have leftovers, ensure they are cooled and refrigerated very quickly. When reheating, make sure it's heated thoroughly, but try to avoid multiple reheats of the same portion. Eating leftover cooked fish or shrimp cold in a salad, provided it was stored correctly, is often a better option than reheating it. The general rule with seafood is when in doubt, throw it out, because the consequences of getting food poisoning from seafood can be quite unpleasant. It's about minimizing risk wherever possible. So, next time you're tempted to reheat that leftover salmon or shrimp pasta, give some thought to how it was handled after it was first cooked, and if reheating is truly the safest option compared to enjoying it cold or preparing just the right amount in the first place. It's a small change in habit that can offer significant peace of mind. So, we've talked about 5 foods: rice, chicken and poultry, potatoes, spinach and leafy greens, and seafood that require a little extra thought before you reheat them. It might seem like a lot to remember, but it really boils down to a few simple principles. The main culprits behind the dangers we discussed are often either heat-resistant toxins produced by bacteria that grew due to improper cooling and storage, or, in the case of leafy greens, potential chemical changes from repeated heating. The common thread here isn't just the reheating itself, but how the food was handled before it got to the reheating stage. Rapid cooling and proper refrigeration are your best friends when it comes to saving leftovers safely. Think of it this way: the sooner you get that cooked food into the fridge and cooled down, the less time bacteria have to multiply or for those problematic chemical reactions to occur. Shallow containers are better than deep ones because they help the food cool faster. Don't pack the fridge so tightly that air can't circulate around the containers. And when you do reheat food, make sure it's heated through completely, steaming hot, to kill any bacteria that might have survived or grown. But remember, reheating won't destroy the toxins produced by Bacillus cereus in rice or Clostridium botulinum spores in potatoes, or histamine in some fish, if they were present in the first place due to poor handling before refrigeration. It's easy to fall into old habits, especially ones that seem harmless because we've done them for years. But understanding the potential risks associated with certain foods and how they're handled as leftovers is a powerful step towards taking control of your health. It's not about creating fear around food. It's about making informed choices. By being mindful of how quickly you cool and store cooked foods, and by being a little cautious about which foods you reheat and how many times, you significantly reduce your risk of uncomfortable, or even serious, foodborne illnesses. Remember, your body is amazing and resilient, but as we age, it benefits from a little extra care and attention. Small changes, like being more careful with how you handle and reheat certain leftovers, can make a significant difference in keeping you feeling well and enjoying your life to the fullest. Don't think of this as being overly cautious. Think of it as being smart and proactive about your health. It's about preventing problems before they start. If you've learned something new today, or if this has made you think twice about how you handle your leftovers, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had a bad experience with reheated food? Do you have your own tips for safely handling leftovers? Your experiences and insights could be incredibly helpful to others in our community. We're all in this together, learning and supporting each other in living our best lives. If you found this video helpful and want more practical tips and information to support your health and well-being as you age, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us know we're providing content that's valuable to you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. so you don't miss out on future videos filled with simple, actionable advice just for you. We cover everything from food and nutrition to exercise, sleep, memory, and so much more, all aimed at helping you thrive. Taking care of yourself doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes, it's just about having the right information and making small adjustments to your daily routine. Being aware of which foods are tricky to reheat is one of those simple, powerful pieces of information. You deserve to enjoy your meals without worrying about getting sick. You deserve to feel healthy, energetic, and vibrant at every age. Thank you for watching, for being part of our community, and for investing in your own well-being. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep living your best life at every age.